Graham, welcome to the Hidden Why podcast. Great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Mate, very exciting. Whereabouts are you in the world?
I am in Venice Beach.
Venice Beach. Is that what I see behind you?
Yeah, something like that.
Cool.
No, it's just a green screen of a cool piece of art I found somewhere.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Venice Beach, mate. So, look, you've got a fairly significant biography here, but without me reading through that, I always just ask you to give us a bit of a recap as to who you are, what you do, and where you're going.
Cool. Undercover Canadian from Quebec, studied architecture and product design. So I call myself a designpreneur. I ended up just having real interest in business and as a real entrepreneur from the early days, and then I studied design, and so I sort of look at myself that way. I've been in the US quite a long time now, half my life, 25 plus years. Lived in Seattle and then New York, and now in Venice Beach. And I was sort of very lucky to be in the right place at the right time and very interested in the internet, and so I built one of the first internet companies back in '95, building websites, and with my cousin Tish Hill, and it did really well. And,
what was that internet company?
We just built websites. So yeah, '95 was like pre-Netscape, it was like people would confuse their website addresses with their emails. Like it was that early. We were paper printout brochures telling them why they should be on the www. And we just were early and did good work and got Microsoft as a client, and they gave us millions of dollars of business and grew it to 60 people and sold it. And so I was very fortunate to make some money at an early age, and that gave me gave me real latitude to figure out, do what I wanted to do. And I was just very interested in environmental matters, and so I've been focused on that area for 22 years, since 2000. When I moved to New York.
For 20 years now.
Yeah. So
you studied environmental science, or?
No, I studied architecture and product design. So just something that really appealed to me, and I've learned a lot. Learned a lot over the years, and took me a couple years to get it right, but I worked on a plant-based air filter in 2000. And then in 2004, and I had an idea in 2000 for a site called Tree Hugger, a tongue-in-cheek name. And I started that in 2004. And that was at a time that environmental media was just terrible. And we came up with something new and really compelling that showed this beautiful green future. And we were in the right place at the right time. And so we used blogs. So it was an early blog, and pushed really hard. So we were very quickly the biggest green site on the web. So it had a really central position for a number of years there, and then sold that to Discovery and worked for them for a number of years. And Tree Hugger is still going strong, and is a great site and great newsletter, and it's owned by now by IAC. My friend Neil Vogel runs Dot Meredith, and it's so that's sort of fun. It ended up there, and they're taking great care of it, and very cool site. Still billions of web pages over the years.
So just information sort of resource center about environmental, climate change, all that sort of.
Yeah, quite design forward. So just trying to show people incredible, inspiring architecture, product design, fashion, environmental news. So just get people, educated, but also just inspired to work and take part in this new incredible green future that we could see coming down the pike. And we're still going. They're still going, which is awesome.
And now Carbonauts now.
Now the Carbonauts. So Carbonauts is about 3 years old. And the premise of it is largely that the environmental movement did a good job about raising awareness. So awareness is really high now. And climate doesn't care about awareness. Climate doesn't care about your feelings. Climate cares about action, cares about what you do. Ultimately, it's a physics question. And so we need to help take this huge level of awareness and concern and get people focused on action, actually doing something about it. And starting to support some of the amazing solutions that exist in the world that are out there that really need our support in order to build volume and lower prices and build the social norms to get everyone else on board. So I just became really obsessed with the idea of how to move people from awareness to action, and realize it's, we have a platform and we'll probably do an app, and, some of that stuff's good, but I think real change tends to happen in community with accountability and around people. And so we run these live, highly interactive, cameras on workshops for big companies. We have some fantastic clients: Amazon, Chanel, Discovery, Warner Brothers Discovery, I should say, Netflix, News Corp, et cetera, et cetera. And we help them move their cultures to cultures of sustainability. Many companies have really aggressive sustainability goals. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. You got to get your people rowing in the same direction and understanding and enthusiastic about this stuff. Yet the average person, you talk about sustainability and they talk about straws and packaging, stuff we have to fix for sure, but not the big stuff to focus on. And so we just help inspire and educate and get people to take action and then talk about it, build the social norms. So we basically run these fantastic workshops for big companies, and we're starting to do more business to citizen workshops as well, which we're excited about. And all sorts of sustainability topics.
Right. Yeah, good for you.
Oh,
did you ever think you'd be sort of doing this when you left school?
No, I studied architecture and product design, so no. Didn't envision this at all, but
bit of a pivot. So tell me, I mean, before we go into the environmental side of things and what we can do there, and maybe you can, lead us through a bit more of awareness idea of where we're at and where we're heading. But just going back to you going out and starting the website company, you said timing was, ideal for you then, which is great. What would one piece of advice be to those, doing something similar? I mean, you set yourself up and managed to sell a company, making some good money out of it, which then allowed you to do that passion sort of pivot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, not possible for everyone. I guess you've got to be in the right circumstances to do that. But what sort of advice would you give people that want to go out there and follow something they're very passionate about?
Well, I mean, I think following your passion is of course a great thing to do, and some of us we all have our strengths and parameters and advantages, and so I mean, I definitely, having been at this for 22 years, I feel like there's a real inflection point that we're going through. All of a sudden it's really sustainability is going really well. So I'd almost say, even if you didn't care about the environment, it's strategically a smart place to get involved. Like, I think that with the extreme weather and the amount of science and just the time that we've been at this, I think the world is very much waking up to the reality of the situation. And that reality is we've really got to get on it. And so I think that luckily that comes with it. What is coming with it are many companies really investing in it, and startups and big companies. And so there's starting to be real opportunity for working in the space, which is great. Really, really, really good. So it's it's perhaps an ideal time to combine do well by doing good. And so you can take your passion and actually probably also do well, which is fantastic. That's exactly what we need.
Yeah. So talk to us about the current situation with climate change. I mean, you talk a lot about awareness and companies getting more involved. Sometimes I feel companies are getting involved just to say, hey, we're green, but not actually really doing much to have impact or change. I'm just being the devil's advocate.
Sure.
Where are we at with climate change? First of all.
Sure. Well, I think it's really important, just to acknowledge that we're human. And humans love to point the finger elsewhere. It's always convenient if it's someone else's fault, because then we don't have to do anything. And so There's a lot of, we point at the government, or we point at corporations, or the corporations point at the individuals. And I think, to quote my friend Saul Griffith, it's really yes and. So we need all hands on deck, and everyone is complicit, and we all need to be doing it, whether you're in the government or your private life or your company. This is all of our problem, and it's not helping by pretending it's just one sector or another. It's literally all of us, and we're really all we're complicit. Unless you're living on a loincloth somewhere and have a zero footprint, you've lived a life which has included non-FSC certified lumber. You have driven on roads created with oil. You've probably driven gas cars. You've probably flown in airplanes. You've probably used plastic. And so it's intellectually dishonest for us to sort of point at these big companies as if sort of they're the bad people. And we also invest in them, work in them, buy their products.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important that there are bad or worse actors out there for sure, and sometimes very specifically, but for the most part, people have done what they've done with the best of intentions, and so I think we just need to figure out how we help in whatever area we are in, and ideally all the areas. So I think you want to look at your life and think about where you can have an impact, and I think doing stuff at home is really important, and try to influence at work, and then try to vote and get involved politically and get the right people doing the right stuff. But we just waste time by sort of pointing fingers and trying to make it someone else's problem. It's clearly that this could not be more of a global problem, and it's really everyone. And
so we look at climate change as a global problem. We've all got to get involved in whatever capacity that might look like to us individually. Where are we at with climate change, and how critical is it that we start doing stuff right now?
Well, I think the graph, which I think most people know, sort of made popular by An Inconvenient Truth, is just that gap. The graph looking at parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere, and it's just gone up and up. And so there are many other things that are important that we have to get right. Biodiversity is really important. Plastics in the ocean is really important. But carbon, we have to fix carbon. That's one of the things that's very important. And so, as a report card, looking at where we are at from the past 30, 40, 50 years, whatever, it's not going great. And there's also some fantastic news, and governments are really getting involved, companies are really getting involved, individuals are really, so there's a lot of great news. So it's really possible to look at this in different ways, but we certainly haven't fixed it yet. We've got a lot of work to do, and so we need to get on it.
Sure. What would you say to someone that says it's just part of the environmental cycle that we go through, this climate change process? I still hear this, and you probably hear it too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's like per earlier, it's fun to just point the finger because then you don't have to do anything, and it tends to align with whoever's incentives. Like, oh, interesting that your view is the one that seems to suit you being the most comfortable going forward. So yeah, I don't think it's even worth going there. Just look, all of our institutions are saying this is a really big problem. We have to, if you just listen to the vast majority of our scientists, and we know it's happening. So it's not worth. And also, let's not vilify the climate deniers. They have their own information ecosystem, which is full of other stuff, and we might be the same if that's what we were around constantly. So,
fair point.
Yeah, I just don't think it's worth. And honestly, I think it's like in terms of action, as an example, I think it's like let's get the choir doing the stuff. The amount of I can see it personally. I think most people can. You look around yourself, like there are a lot of people talking about this stuff, but are they doing anything? Have they? LA. Apparently less than 1% are signed up for renewable energy. It takes you like 10 minutes to sign up. Like EVs, they seem ginormous. We got 5% at this point of Like the numbers are still pretty low. So I think the choir has a lot of work to do as well. And I don't want to, we want to meet people where they are and, be accepting and not shaming. But I think, we just got to all start to get engaged. It's not enough it's not enough to do nothing. Listen to your institutions, get involved. Not to point fingers, not to make people feel bad. Just there's a beautiful green future out there, literally around the corner, and we have most of the tech, if not everything, we need to get there. And it's healthier and it's happier, and it allows our species to flourish and continue. So we want to get there, and a lot of it doesn't take that much sacrifice. So and a lot of it has major advantages to like saving money and for our health and all that stuff. So it's a good picture. So
okay, what so looking at now action that we can take, let's look on the individual level at home in our personal lives. How would you encourage or lead us into more action?
So our sort of sleight of hand, I would say, with our corporate clients is we sort of think the easiest on-ramp for most people, home is number one, right? Ultimately, we are fundamentally somewhat selfish, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Our families, our homes are just really important to us. And so we do workshops focused on the business itself, but we do a lot of workshops focused on staff's homes. And that's a way to get people climate literate, get them enthusiastic, and get them engaged, because you focus on the stuff closest to them. And so we help them. We have our own carbon calculator, the Berkeley. It's a version of the Berkeley Cool Climate Calculator, which is the most peer-reviewed one. And what we do is we have them run through it. It takes like 12 minutes. And then people understand, this is my footprint. This is how I compare globally. And most importantly, these are the big chunks, and they're almost always the same. And then they basically tie to what we call the big six. And so these are the six most impactful things, the big six, the six most impactful things for most people to reduce their footprint. And we get them focused on that. So if you're going to do anything, these are probably the big ones for most people. So those are switch to renewable energy, which could mean switching via your utility, switching to community solar, which might actually save you money. If you're lucky to own a home, you might put solar panels up if you're in the right situation. So switching to renewable energy. Driving, so you want to reduce the miles that you drive, period, carpool and that stuff if you can. And you want to electrify as many of them as possible. So we encourage all that, and we help people along that route. Then in the food department, move to a plant-rich diet or up your plant-rich. Reduce the food waste that you have, which is going to save you money, and is a great thing to do. And start composting or up your compost game. Then we talk about offsets. If you have the budget, buy as many as you can. Ideally, as many as your footprint, so that you're in theory.
What do you mean, sir? Offsets?
So offsets are when you support projects that either prevent carbon from going into the atmosphere or sequester them. And so that's a way. So for most of us, you can do a lot to reduce your footprint, but ultimately you're not going to get as far as you need to go if you live in Western society. And so there's some great, not all, some of them are terrible, but if you're careful about how you select, there's some great projects out there that wouldn't happen without your money. And so you can support those and effectively do your own Paris Agreement, sort of get your footprint down to zero. That's the sort of the concept. And so we teach about offsets. We also teach about reducing and optimizing your flying. So flying is generally a big part of a lot of people's footprint. And then we talk about building social norms. And the way we do that is just talking about sharing and how important that is. Not in a judgy way, but in a tactful, positive, enthusiastic, helpful manner. Help people share your journey and offer help on theirs. We need to get people talking about this stuff such that we build the social norms, because that is the way our world works. So when we sort of consider our behaviors, we look around at the people close to us. That's how we make the decisions. And you can see this so crystal clear in the last number of years, where we seem to somehow have moved past a fact-based society. And that's because your tribe matters more than the facts. You are willing to overlook the facts if that's what your tribe is saying. And so you can see how social norms are just incredibly powerful. So we need to build new social norms, that this is how we live. And by the way, we've gotten our priorities all sideways for a long time now. We're confused about money and space and stuff, and its connection to happiness. And money makes a big difference, certainly in the going from zero to roof over your head to food security. But once you're making a reasonable amount of money, then you can get a nicer bottle of wine or a nicer dinner, or go to a different restaurant or vacation, or, at the high end, you can get a different plane or a house or whatever. But ultimately, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. We have way more space, literally triple the space per person we have since the 50s, and happiness levels are flat. So we have way more stuff, way more space, and we're the same. And so it's intuitive. We sort of know it. Life is about your connections, your relationships, your experiences. That's mostly what drives happiness. And so there's this great green future where we just live with a little less, but are very healthy and happy, and our species flourishes. So that's
100%.
where we need to get to. And that's what we're trying to do with the Carbonauts.
I wonder, then I had this chat last night with a friend about our level of expectations and how they've changed since, my parents were kids to the kids of us now, and the living standards, how they've just continued to develop and raise, I suppose. The bar keeps going higher and higher. And our thoughts were really that whilst we're here, I don't think we can go backwards to being comfortable with less now that we have more. And will this need for more ever stop? Because that's the part of sort of the world that we live in, to always have more and always to improve. And it seems like I agree with you 100% that happiness is linked more to health and connections and social relations than any of the other stuff. Yes, it's important, to have a shelter and roof over our head and food. But everything beyond that is just that next level stuff that we all keep seeking because we think it's going to make us happier, and it never does. But
we know that. We know that. We know that. And you see that I think people intuitively, so my last company was called Life Edited. We did a lot of small living focus, and not to pat myself on the back, but I wrote an op-ed for the Times. It was like the 4th most read for the year. It was called like Living with Less. So we always talked about less but better. I gave a TED talk on the topic, like 6 million views. Like, people are interested and they get it. They know, wow, I've got too much stuff in my life. Like, this just feels wrong. It's hard to manage. It's overwhelming. And absolutely at the lower levels, when you don't have food security or whatever, like, you don't have any time to yourself, like, yeah, this stuff makes a difference, of course. But for anyone sort of in the top third or something, like, it's nuts. And we use so many resources. So much of the carbon footprint is from like the top third, the top 10, the top 5%. And it's not making them any happier. So it does not make any sense. And you see many people who get, who take a more minimalist approach and are very happy. It really is something special.
Yeah. So next time we're sitting on the Amazon or going to the shops thinking about that new thing we need, perhaps question whether you need it.
Yeah.
And that's impact,
pause,
isn't it?
Pause on that and see. A woman, we do the sustainability dinners, and it was over last night, and who was it? Oh, it was Charlene Ermster. She has this cool company called We Are Hot. There's like sustainable lingerie and swimwear and stuff. And she was talking about I can't remember who, but basically the younger women putting together outfits via virtual outfits, like designing, putting these things together. And what was really fascinating about it was they would sort of, it was very creative and they'd put it together, but then they wouldn't buy. It just was like that, what sort of, it got it out of their systems in a way, right? Like they did the creative part and then they didn't need to buy. And so I think that pausing, we just realized we just don't need stuff. And I think many of us have had very happy times in our lives, college with, very little and sharing a room, or going on vacation where you're in like a hotel room and you got one bag of stuff. And like we can be very happy with not a lot of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. The minimalist approach to living life, and I certainly I can't say that I'm a minimalist, but have had those experiences where we've gone as a family over to Japan and lived there, with 3 suitcases in tow, and felt that sense of freedom from that experience. So very, very important. Talk to me about electronic vehicles. I mean, we talked about the big 6, so sustainable energy, solar power, things like that. Electronic vehicles, I still hear this in conversations. Is it right? Is it not? Talking about making of the batteries and how we charge that. I mean, it's used carbon power to charge that, or coal power, I should say, to charge those batteries at home. I mean, is that going to be better than our current system?
So I think it's really important to look at everything, not let perfect be the enemy of the good.
Yeah.
That's a really, really important concept. And often these discussions leave out what they're being compared to. And so, my general understanding with electric vehicles is that even if they were powered on the dirtiest electricity possible, which in the US would be North Dakota, I guess, mostly coal-based electricity, they still, because electric engines are wildly more efficient in general, it's still going to have lower footprint than a gas car. So there are some issues with mining and some labor stuff for sure, and many people are working on those. If they can figure that out, they're going to make a lot of money by doing so, and so it's not perfect, but it's a lot better. And like you can get renewable energy if you're charging at home, you can get renewable energy wherever you live. Certainly in the U.S. Canada has very clean power. Europe can have very clean power, so you don't have to be charging off of coal.
Yeah,
and even if you are, it's going to be better. So I think they're very much a state. The true answer to any of these questions is it depends. It's a nuanced world, and so it depends. Listen, if you're getting the electric Hummer, which is, ginormous and heavy and makes very little sense, and you're charging off full coal, it probably makes less sense. But sometimes it makes a ton of sense. And so, and I'd say most of the time it does. So I'm very pro electric vehicles.
So looking for that perfect solution, isn't it? And I think that's hits the nail on the head, that answer. Food-wise, you talked about mostly plant-based diets, less animal products.
Yep.
Explain the reasoning behind that.
Well, that one's multifaceted, and so carbonauts, we'll solve for carbon, but we could still end up having a pretty crappy world overall. So there are other things that matter, and so animal cruelty is definitely one. There are 92 billion animals that we effectively, for the most part, live a really torturous lives. So animal cruelty is something to consider. Health, pretty proven that vegetarian or vegan diets make a very big difference. I have a friend who's going through some heart issues, and you change your diet, and it's Bill Clinton did it. This is a real thing. Your diet really affects things, so it can be very positive from the diet front. And then from an environmental factor, some of these, in particular beef and lamb in particular, have really high carbon footprints and often use a lot of water. And so there are really good reasons to live more of a plant-rich diet. And as before, it depends. You know, in certain situations, there might be aggressive rotary grazing done in the right manner that, you know, maybe you could create a hamburger that actually was carbon positive, or certainly a lot less. There are probably some answers out there, but on the whole, with factory farming, etc., it's a really, they say it's beef is the most inefficient way to get a calorie into your body.
Yeah,
it's just an inefficient way of doing things, and yeah, it tastes good. I still eat meat. I try to stay away, and I try to be very picky about beef and lamb in particular, not just eat it any old time, but only if it's particularly good. But I can easily see a future where we look back and are like, how did we ever do that? Like, we know, and certainly if we put our minds to it, we can create very tasty food that's much healthier and doesn't have 92 billion animals being tortured every year. So I think there are very good arguments there, and I get it. It's cultural. We like the taste. Like, I understand. I'm generally a weekday vegetarian with some cheating, and so I end up probably half vegetarian. But like, I understand. It's tough.
It is. Yeah, we can associate with that, like trying to do more vegan meals or vegetarian meals during the week, and then weekends we cheat a bit. Finding that balance, but I think that's again a good place to start with, just reducing the consumption. I listened to a guy yesterday, the guy that termed the blue zones, can't think of his name, but blue zone diets, and he talked about most of those diets in those blue zones, it's 95% plants, and then just a small amount of animal products. And you can see that. Like, I lived in Japan, and you can see the portions of the meat on their plates are a lot smaller.
Yes. So in the US, as an example, probably similar in other Australia and Canada, etc. But the portions have basically doubled. It used to be really the side dish, and it's become center stage. And so that's one way of looking at it, is your portion size. And so it can be much more of a garnish. It can be different. I have a friend, Andrew, who's got a company called Both Burger, and they basically mix 50% other vegetables in, and they're delicious. And you don't even know that you're eating vegetables, which are good, really. So it's healthier for you. It tastes the same, perhaps better, and you're eating half as much meat. So there's some really smart approaches out there that is very pragmatic. And so, you could eat meat exactly the same number of times, but just reduce the portion size in half, and you're twice eating half as much meat. Like, it's quite powerful. Layer that on with a weekday vegetarian plan, and try to really cut out lamb and beef, and all of a sudden your footprint is a fraction of what it was, and you're still happy.
Yeah, I like it. A lot of these things, taking action in general, you don't have to jump all in straight away. Dip your toe. Take the first lap, and then suddenly you'll be doing 2Ks,
Exactly right.
That's good stuff.
I don't know if 2K is very impressive, but let's go with 10K.
Let's go with 10K. Where do we send people to find out more about Carbonauts and yourself, and how they can get more information about taking action?
Great. Yeah, we'd very interested in talking to sustainability or HR people at large companies. Work with some great clients: Amazon, Chanel, Toyota, AT&T, News Corp, Discovery, Warner Bros. Discovery, Netflix, etc. And so would love to talk to them. The Carbonauts, plural.com is a great place. You can probably find me on LinkedIn too, under Mr. Graham Hill. Love to talk to anyone who needs help on their both ESG and HR goals.
Awesome. Graham, so good to have you on today.
Yeah, great. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it was really nice to talk to you.
Thanks, mate. Guys, check it out, thehiddenwhy.com. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. See you soon.